Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel, thank you. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Perfect World based on novel. So let's start. Shahao's face was pale. Blood could be seen on the corner of his mouth as he laid on the mountain ground. He found it hard to believe that his flesh actually merged back together, reappearing in this mountain forest. Only, there were pieces of flesh, blood, and bone that already disappeared, so there were quite a few terrifying injuries on his body. His condition was too critical. Soft shoots disappeared one after another. They recovered his injured body and closed the cracks, repairing the large bloody holes. The Supreme Being bone was also guided back, only now, it had lost a third of its original self. A portion had been burned in that terrifying storm of energy. This was the damaged remains. Suddenly, some of the bones in his body split apart again, breaking again. Meanwhile, his body was the same, almost falling apart into pieces on the mountain floor. Shahao inspected himself, discovering that there were a few unique symbols on his bones and flesh that clashed with the willow branch's vitality. Immortal Palace's natural law merged with my body. Shahao carefully inspected himself and understood what was happening. His eyes grew dim, and he released a sigh. He was still going to die. Willow deity had left. The branch he left behind was almost completely withered up. Even though it radiated with vitality again, it was life force. There weren't any powerful natural laws inside. Meanwhile, the natural laws of Immortal Palace merged together with his flesh, carrying out an all-around destruction to completely kill him. It will still be difficult to escape death in the end. I was given a sliver of hope, leaving me with a damaged body, all to satisfy my final wish to see the ones I wish to see, he said to himself. Shahao took a deep breath. He knew that his life would end soon. Right now. He stood up. Many cracks appeared on his body as soon as he walked out a few steps, and blood immediately began to flow outwards. Half of his body became red. His injuries were terrifyingly severe. He was just like a broken piece of delicate chinaware. Even though he had been pieced together, the slightest movements might cause the fragments to separate. Shahao's expression was drab, lacking vitality. Blood was even trickling out from the area between his brows. His body was in an extremely terrible state. How was he supposed to travel this long journey? It was quite likely that he would die along the way. He sat on the ground, holding that willow branch and focusing all of his attention on absorbing and refining it. All of the tender shoots came off, entering his body. The branch was also breaking apart into green light to nourish his flesh and bones. Soon after, the entire willow branch disappeared. A bit of color returned to his face. In addition, he discovered that a few special symbols appeared on his flesh and bones. When he carefully inspected them, they were like copper rust, rough and mottled green. This was piece of rust from the bronze Immortal Palace that had been refined into a curse symbol. It was strange and mysterious. If it were not for this branch that was full of life force left behind by the willow deity, he would have died a long time ago. Despite this being the case, this branch could only recombine his flesh and bones. It couldn't cure this curse. As such, if this persisted, he would definitely become weak and die under torment. The entire branch was refined. My vitality has improved a bit temporarily, but I don't have much time. I have to make the most of it. He staggered outwards. He found the bronze precious case nearby, as well as a few damaged and broken weapons. This time, his losses were disastrous. After the desperate battle reached that state, he was truly left with no choice. Even he himself was ruined and his Supreme Being bone blasted apart, let alone these weapons. Every step he took sent great pain to his chest. Cold sweat poured outwards. The Supreme Being bone had already broken apart, and even though it had been pieced together, only 2/3 remained. He was trying to decide whether or not to directly guide the Supreme Being blood to all parts of his body, no longer having it nourish this bone, and instead instilling it into every bone in his body. This was an extremely reckless idea. Doing this was the same as abandoning his Supreme Being bone. No one knew what would be the result of attempting something like this. However, Shahao quickly shook his head. He didn't have much time, and couldn't afford to torment himself like this. If he did this, he might immediately pass away. After all, the Supreme Being bone was too important. It was where his foundation rested. If he acted rashly, no longer nourishing it with the divine blood, there would definitely be huge problems. Time to leave. Shahao staggered forward. Then, he flew into the sky, rushing into the distance. Blood continuously flowed out from the corners of his lips. As soon as he used divine force, pain would erupt from all parts of his body. This situation was definitely not good. He doubted whether or not he would even meet his loved ones before his death. He might not reach where he wished to go at all. Yi, who is the one that just left? He looks a lot like Stone Country's emperor. There were news that he carried out a final battle against the seventh deity, fighting from Fire Nation, all the way outside to unknown whereabouts. Could it be that he won? There were a few cultivators that passed this place. They were extremely shocked. They descended to Three Life Mountain. Shahao sped along the entire time. Where exactly was he supposed to go? He had just left Stone Country not long ago, and met his close relatives. Right now, he really wished to see his parents one last time. After all, after leaving for so many years, they didn't even stay together that many days. In the end, blood is still thicker than water. Right now, he truly wished to remain by his parents' side for a while. Afterwards, he would leave and find himself a place of final rest. He sped along. His first destination was Stone Country Imperial Capital, so he could use its altar. Otherwise, how was he supposed to cross such a huge distance? Your Majesty, when they saw Shahao descend from the sky while covered in blood, the Imperial guards were all stupefied. Their bodies trembled uncontrollably. What was going on with the human emperor? His entire body was covered in injuries, and he was close to death. Everyone gathered around, calling for medicine masters to treat him. An emperor of a country being injured to this degree was truly a terrifying and shocking sight. Your Majesty, the final deity, the guards asked with doubt. He was killed by me. Shahao replied. He handed the broken country protecting divine halberd and broken, true deity magical sword over to them. He sank into a moment of silence. There was no time left. Your Majesty, where are you going? The guards saw that he was going to leave. They were all shocked. I am going on a long journey. Shahao said. He didn't have much time left. When he thought about how his parents would feel, he immediately stopped. His face became incomparably dark and gloomy, and his heart ached. Could it be that he couldn't see his parents anymore? Shahao said emotionally. His heart was rather sore as he gazed into the horizon. He stood there quietly for a moment. When he thought of his parents, he also thought of his younger brother. He said to himself, I need to pay him a visit. He activated the altar and rushed into the passageway before disappearing from Stone Country Imperial Capital. Did you know? The little stone defied the heavens. He killed the last deity. Stone Emperor isn't more than 15 or 16 in age, yet he slaughtered a deity. He killed the most powerful Huang Yu and completely stopped a disaster from happening. Every single cultivator in the wasteland region was left gaping and speechless. A youth unexpectedly slaughtered deities one after another, killing 7 in total, wiping out all of these powerful existences that ignited their divine flames. What kind of accomplishment was this? It was so glorious that it left everyone trembling and in disbelief. The little stone was breathtaking. He left everyone absolutely speechless. He descended from the sky. His silver battle clothes shone, making him look holy and otherworldly. He was only 12 or 13 years old, so he wasn't old at all. However, he was incomparably quiet. When his eyes opened and closed, divine radiance seeped out. His black hair scattered outwards, making him look brave and heroic. This was precisely Qin Hao. Qin Hao frowned and said, What happened to you? Shahao suppressed his injuries and said, Have them all go away. I have things to say to you. Qin Hao nodded and said, Follow me into Immortal Mountain. Even though these people bore hostility, they all suppressed their emotions and no longer stopped Shahao. On top of a mountain peak, a clear spring rippled about. Pine trees could be seen everywhere. The two brothers sat together. Shahao didn't hide anything, telling him that his life was going to end soon. Qin Hao looked at him and said, It cannot be cured. I understand my current situation clearly. Even holy medicines are useless at this point. Shahao shook his head. Qin Hao became silent. Then, he said, what do you wish for me to do? Take care of mother and father. I don't have anyone else to ask. When Shahao finished speaking this sentence, he stood up. He hadn't known this little brother of his for a long time. The other party never liked to talk much, so he didn't want to waste time here. The world is so large. Who knows if there are some ancient methods that can save you? Qin Hao spoke. I know. Shahao nodded. He gave his little brother another look. Qin Hao had to properly look after his mother and father. This was one of his heart's greatest concern, something he felt the most unease towards. Don't worry. They will definitely live happily. Even if we entered the higher realms, no one would dare provoke us. Qin Hao said. Shahao sighed lightly. His eyes contained a bit of reluctance. Since that is the case, I feel reassured. Don't tell them my things, just say that I went to cultivate in isolation. You all should head for the higher realms soon. He knew that now that the immortal bone was successfully planted in Qin Hao's body, he was definitely going to leave. Returning to Stone Village isn't a good choice either. He sighed softly. They will feel incredibly broken-hearted. Qin Hao still followed out in the end, standing behind him and saying this. It was clear that he was talking about Shiziling and his wife. It's fine as long as you don't tell them. Either way, you are going to go into the higher realms, so have them go with you. Shahao didn't turn around. Goodbye. I'm leaving. He took to the air and headed towards the closest big city in search of an altar to help him travel back. Blackrock City was a rather large-scale city. Because it was created from pitch-black rocks, it received this name. The altar was destroyed. Shahao frowned. However, he had no choice. These altars had been worn down by years of improper care and developed some issues. He began to fiddle around with it. With the divine striking stone at his side during these years, he learned a bit about formations too. He wanted to try and fix it so he could open up a porth. It was because he truly didn't have time to waste anymore. An hour later, the restoration was successful. His face was as pale as snow. He had become even weaker. He couldn't wait any longer and needed to hurry back to the wasteland region. Our child. How? Yelling voices sounded behind him that were full of worry and urgency. Two figures rushed over from midair. It was precisely Shiziling and his wife. These past few days had left them both mentally and physically exhausted, almost feeling suffocated. They feared that they would never meet their eldest son again, and be separated forever. Meanwhile, Shiziling and his wife became even more worried. Fortunately, they learned a few things from Stone Country imperial palaces, imperial guards, and deduced his destination from the symbols left behind on the ancestral altar. Fortunately, when they hurried over to Immortal Mountain, they learned that Shahao had just left. They hurriedly chased after him. Shahao felt the urge to open up a passageway and turn around to leave, but he couldn't do it. He had already been discovered, so he probably couldn't hide things any longer. If he turned around now, he would truly leave this life with regrets. How? What happened? Qin Yining cried out in alarm. Her face was filled with terror. She grabbed his hand. When she saw his body that was cracked from head to toe with blood flowing everywhere from him, she was so horrified her hands and feet went cold. Qin Hao had also followed over. He was the one that led the way. Father, mother, Shahao opened said. He smiled, feeling peaceful inwardly. However, he felt rather dizzy and fell down on the altar. He descended from the sky. His silver battle clothes shone, making him look holy and otherworldly. He was only 12 or 13 years old, so he wasn't old at all. However, he was incomparably quiet. When his eyes opened and closed, divine radiance seeped out. His black hair scattered outwards, making him look brave and heroic. This was precisely Qin Hao. Qin Hao frowned and said, "What happened to you?" Shahao suppressed his injuries and said, "Have them all go away. I have things to say to you." Qin Hao nodded and said, "Follow me into Immortal Mountain." Even though these people bore hostility, they all suppressed their emotions and no longer stopped Shahao. On top of a mountain peak, a clear spring rippled about. Pine trees could be seen everywhere. The two brothers sat together. Shahao didn't hide anything, telling him that his life was going to end soon. Qin Hao looked at him and said, "It cannot be cured. I understand my current situation clearly. Even holy medicines are useless at this point." Shahao shook his head. Qin Hao became silent. Then, he said, "What do you wish for me to do?" "Take care of mother and father. I don't have anyone else to ask." When Shahao finished speaking this sentence, he stood up. He hadn't known this little brother of his for a long time. The other party never liked to talk much, so he didn't want to waste time here. The world is so large. Who knows if there are some ancient methods that can save you? Qin Hao spoke. "I know." Shahao nodded. He gave his little brother another look. Qin Hao had to properly look after his mother and father. This was one of his heart's greatest concern, something he felt the most unease towards. "Don't worry. They will definitely live happily. Even if we entered the higher realms, no one would dare provoke us," Qin Hao said. Shahao sighed lightly. His eyes contained a bit of reluctance. "Since that is the case, I feel reassured. Don't tell them my things, just say that I went to cultivate in isolation. You all should head for the higher realms soon." He knew that now that the immortal bone was successfully planted in Qin Hao's body, he was definitely going to leave. Returning to Stone Village isn't a good choice either. He sighed softly. They will feel incredibly broken-hearted. Qin Hao still followed out in the end, standing behind him and saying this. It was clear that he was talking about Shiziling and his wife. "It's fine as long as you don't tell them. Either way, you are going to go into the higher realms, so have them go with you." Shahao didn't turn around. "Goodbye. I'm leaving." He took to the air and headed towards the closest big city in search of an altar to help him travel back. Blackrock City was a rather large-scale city. Because it was created from pitch-black rocks, it received this name. The altar was destroyed. Shahao frowned. However, he had no choice. These altars had been worn down by years of improper care and developed some issues. He began to fiddle around with it. With the divine striking stone at his side during these years, he learned a bit about formations too. He wanted to try and fix it so he could open up a porth. It was because he truly didn't have time to waste anymore. An hour later, the restoration was successful. His face was as pale as snow. He had become even weaker. He couldn't wait any longer and needed to hurry back to the wasteland region. "Our child. Howard." Yelling voices sounded behind him that were full of worry and urgency. Two figures rushed over from midair. It was precisely Shiziling and his wife. These past few days had left them both mentally and physically exhausted, almost feeling suffocated. They feared that they would never meet their eldest son again, and be separated forever. Meanwhile, Shiziling and his wife became even more worried. Fortunately, they learned a few things from Stone Country Imperial Palace's Imperial Guards, and deduced his destination from the symbols left behind on the ancestral altar. Fortunately, when they hurried over to Immortal Mountain, they learned that Shahao had just left. They hurriedly chased after him. Shahao felt the urge to open up a passageway and turn around to leave, but he couldn't do it. He had already been discovered, so he probably couldn't hide things any longer. If he turned around now, he would truly leave this life with regrets. "Howard, what happened?" Qin Yining cried out in alarm. Her face was filled with terror. She grabbed his hand. When she saw his body that was cracked from head to toe with blood flowing everywhere from him, she was so horrified her hands and feet went cold. Qin Hao had also followed over. He was the one that led the way. "Father, mother," Shahao opened said. He smiled, feeling peaceful inwardly. However, he felt rather dizzy and fell down on the altar. "Hurry, hurry. Bring him back to Immortal Mountain, and think of every way possible. Use all of the spiritual medicines and holy pills. We have to save Howard." Shiziling roared as he hugged Shahao. "We already lost Howard once. This time we cannot lose him again. He has to survive." Qin Yining cried out as tears flowed out from her eyes. They hugged Shahao and quickly headed towards Immortal Mountain. That day, the entire world was shaken. News finally spreads to the other regions. Shahao stood against the deities, successfully killing the final member of the 7 deities, completing a heaven-defying feat. The little stone truly did it. Unbelievable. This will definitely become an important part of history, one that will be recorded forever. As the discussions went on, news of his body's serious injuries were also leaked, leaving many people shocked. What? The little stone is about to die. He can't live much longer. That can't be. He only has a few days left to live. When this type of information spread, the world was in shock. The little stone was so brilliant and outstanding, yet his life was reaching its end. This left everyone feeling rather baffled. They didn't know what to say. Shahao was gravely injured this time, because of fighting 7 deities from the higher realms. Many inheritances were all feeling respect towards him. If he died, they would naturally feel sorrow for him. Those who heaven love die young. He is still so young with astonishing natural talents. How can he fall so prematurely like this? Is this true? Many people didn't want to believe this. There are several elders in Stone Country who are doing everything they can to find all types of precious medicines and medicinal methods. As long as they could save him, they are willing to pay any price. The entire world was in commotion. The little stone fought from one place to the next, killing 6 great deities and eliminating the lower realm's calamity. However, he himself was about to die. Everyone became aware of this, and they were all discussing this matter. How? Qin Yining cried loudly. She held his head in embrace, tears continuously falling from her face. Now that things had reached this state, what methods were there left? He only had a few days left at most. Sir, please save Hao. We are willing to pay the cost, whatever it is. Qin Yining wept. She no longer looked like the intelligent holy woman, instead looking just like an ordinary mother. She was in absolute distress. Tears blurred her eyes. It is hard to say, the old medicine master sighed. He shook his head. I still must ask the great doctor to guide us. Do not have any misgivings. We will definitely do everything we can to help. Shiziling urged and said. I have learned that the second son had an immortal bone implanted inside of him. Perhaps it might be able to save the Stone Emperor. The old medicine master said. What? Qin Yining's face went pale. The medicinal bowl in her hands fell onto the ground, releasing a loud and clear cracking sound. The medicinal soup splashed onto the ground. Qin Yining's face lost color. This life-saving method made her heart shake. They had to use their second son's bone to save their eldest son. How could this be? Shiziling was also stupefied. He slowly calmed his heart and then asked, Great Doctor, are there any other methods apart from this? The Zhongzhong shook his head. Qin Yining asked with a trembling voice. Zhongzhong didn't say anything. There was perhaps only one way to cure Shahao, and that was to put the immortal bone into his body. Great Doctor, is there truly no other way? Shiziling frowned. He naturally understood what the other party meant. The so-called drawing support from the immortal bone was definitely a transplantation. If the primordial true bone inside Stone Emperor's body wasn't damaged, then he might heal on his own. Unfortunately, it has been greatly damaged. Zhongzhong said. The greatest problem with Shahao's body was that there was an extra type of symbols in his body that was terrifyingly powerful. It had already combined with his flesh and bones. There was simply no way to get rid of it. That bone in Stone Emperor's body is broken up in hundreds to thousands of pieces. Even if it was pieced together, it is still broken. There is less than 2/3 of the original bone left over. Its power is steeply declining and already not enough. Zhongzhong shook his head. This was reality. That bone in Shahao's body had shattered. The symbols it released could not get rid of that curse. Too cruel, Qin Yining's mind was trembling. To gouge out the bone of her second son to save Shahao, this was a great risk for both her children. In that instant, she felt incomparable suffering. Why did disaster have to befall them like this? Shiziling took a deep breath, trying to calm himself down as much as possible. Great Doctor, please tell me how high the chances of success are. Exactly how much of a risk would it be? Only 60 to 70% chance of success. Shiziling frowned. His heart rose and fell, finding it difficult to calm down. 60 to 70% chance is already quite high, Zhong said. It wouldn't be good for him to influence their decision too much, so he could only say this. Qin Yining closed her eyes, calming herself down. Then, she carefully thought to herself before saying, when he heard this question, Zhong could only sigh. If this bone was your second son's to begin with, then I would have certainty in removing it without harming him, and then borrowing it for its power. Qin Yining cried. She hugged his arm while soundlessly shedding tears. The older son, with which she had been separated for so many years, returned. They hadn't even reunited for that long, yet this type of terrible thing happened. Soon after, Shahao fainted again. His body was just too weak. He had eaten all types of precious medicines and soaked in all types of spiritual liquids, but all of it could only temporarily stop him from dying. Shiziling and Qin Yining looked at each other, at a loss for what to do. They then invited other doctors over to discuss with them. Qin Hao silently appeared. He pushed open the door to the room and said, "Father, Mother, I understand. If you all feel that I can save my older brother, then I have already made my preparations. Father, Mother, I will listen to everything you guys decide on. I won't resist anything that needs to be done. We can save older brother at any time." After speaking, Qin Hao turned around and left. After remaining silent for a long time, Shiziling spoke like this. "But there is a 30% chance of danger. We might lose our second son," Qin Yining said quietly. Why did they have to make such a difficult decision? Their thoughts were all over the place. They didn't want to lose either one of them. Their older son was going to die. If they didn't make a decision soon, he would only become weaker and weaker. However, using their second son's immortal bone in exchange for their oldest son's life was too dangerous. Moreover, how would Qin Hao himself feel? "Heaven, why are you so cruel?" Shiziling roared. Qin Yining silently shed tears, gently caressing the unconscious Shahao's cheeks while muttering, "Mother wants to save you, but she doesn't want to harm your younger brother either." The sun began to set. They didn't end up making a decision this entire day. This was definitely unfavorable for Shahao. He was becoming weaker and weaker. That night, Shahao's heart began to beat quickly. He suddenly opened his eyes. There was a female who was pointing at the area between his brows. She was trying to kill him. How could it have become like this? His mind shook. A powerful energy surged. This woman cried out in alarm, immediately becoming much older after being swept through by the Supreme Being symbols. She turned into an old woman and could not budge an inch. Shahao focused his mind. His entire body was covered in blood as he picked her up and shouted, "Why are you doing this?" Hao, Shiziling and his wife were startled as well. They hadn't left for that long, yet such shocking changes took place. Shahao loosened his hand and laughed self-mockingly, "Even though I am about to die, but my spiritual senses instincts are still here. Truly worthy of this little stone title of mine." Many figures appeared in this room. Shiziling and his wife also hurried over. There were people crying in alarm. "Isn't this Qin Lan, a core disciple of my Qin clan? She came over to deliver you medicine out of goodwill. How could you kill her?" An elder shouted. Shahao wiped away the blood from the corners of his lips. He didn't say a single word and laid down on the bed. "Child, what happened?" Qin Yining rushed over to stop that elder. "What happened?" "He killed Qin Lan." "How could he do this? Even if he is unsatisfied with my Qin clan, he doesn't need to act so cruelly, right?" An old woman with a green wooden staff said hatefully. "Offending my Qin clan again and again, do you think none of us dare to touch you?" Another person shouted. "Father, Mother, send me back to Stone Country and let me die calmly and with dignity instead of in such a shady manner," Shahao said peacefully. When Shiziling and his wife heard what he said, they immediately became furious. "Child, you have been wronged. Are you blaming us?" Qin Yining stood up. Her eyes were red, and then she glared furiously at those Qin clansmen. "All of you better get lost." Shiziling erupted with even greater fury, sending that woman flying with a kick. Her body blasted through the window and exploded in the courtyard. Shiziling and his wife understood that these people definitely heard some news, fearing that the immortal bone would truly be moved to Shahao's body. They wanted to kill him before that happened. This video will end here. Thank you for watching.